Welcome to the first episode of Bold Broadcasting, where we give our bold perspective on the biggest news topics of the day. I am David. I'm joined today with my two co-hosts. To my right is Robin, and we have the lovely Ashley sitting in our chair as well. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about the unfortunate events that happened in Georgia on September 4th with the high school shooting. A lot of talk about, should we be banning guns? Who should be at fault? Is it the father? Is it the shooter? We're going to have that conversation. We're also going to talk about free speech in America. If Kamala Harris gets into the White House, is free speech over as we know it? We know here in the United States, it is our First Amendment right. It is part of our Constitution. And finally, the judge in the Donald Trump hush money trial has pushed back his sentencing till after the election. What does this mean for Trump's chances in the upcoming election? With that being said, let's jump right into our very first topic, which is something that hasn't happened in a while, but continues to happen. And there's finger pointing at multiple sides. And these are school shootings, the unfortunate event of school shootings and the event. And as a father of three, this is something that is of deep concern to me and to my family. So this is from CNN, a timeline of events. So this all kind of started back in May of last year. The FBI received several anonymous tips about online threats to commit a school shooting at an unidentified location and time. Then in December of the same year, Colin Gray, which is the suspect's father, purchased the gun allegedly used in the mass shooting as a holiday present for his son, who was the suspect in the shooting. And then on September 4th at around 9:45 a.m., Colt Gray left the classroom at the beginning of an Algebra 1 class, according to a student. He returned with the gun, but was unable to get back into his classroom, so he went to the classroom next door and opened fire. The shooting left 2 students and 2 teachers dead and 9 injured. I'll start with you first, Robin. There's a lot of talk about who should be culpable, right? And I do want to point a couple things out. The first one is, well, what is the legal age in the state of Georgia to purchase a gun? And it is 18 years old, okay? 18 years old.
Is that for handgun or is that for just like a rifle firearm?
This says,
I know most states are 21 on handguns and then 18 on rifles, shotguns. And so what state was it again?
This is Georgia.
Georgia?
Yeah. So Georgia prohibits the possession or control of a handgun by any person under the age of 18. So, which leads to this. The father of the assailant, of the shooter, he has been charged with manslaughter and I believe second-degree murder. And he gifted the AR-15 style rifle to his son as a gift at the time when his son was 14 years old. So the question is, who should be
21 for handgun in Georgia, by the way.
20 for handgun?
To purchase a handgun, yeah. And then 18 for you can possess a handgun at 18. And you can receive one as a gift at the age of 18. However, you cannot go out and purchase one until you're 21. It's the same law here in Nevada, where if I am a father, I can buy my son or I can buy, a family member a handgun, and I can give it to them, but they can't go over to a physical gun shop and purchase it until they're 21, which is a weird. I feel like if you're going to be able to fire and possess a handgun, you should be able to buy it. I think the ages should line up. That's just a side note. But go ahead. You were.
So do you think it's fair? Do you think it's fair then? The father who gifted his 14-year-old a weapon, that he should be held liable for the shooting.
I mean, think of it this way: if I gifted my son a pickup truck at 14, even though he's not allowed to drive, and he went out and killed somebody on the road, I should be held responsible, right? I said, here, son, here's a truck, here's some keys. Now, whether or not, all of the charges fit the, I guess the law that was broken, that I don't know. I mean, he got charged with multiple counts of manslaughter, I think, what did you get? Like a total of 8 charges?
Yeah.
And so that I'm not sure. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that are a lot of family members and people that are up in arms and are pissed off and they're looking for someone to be held accountable. And I mean, how old was the gunman at the shooting, during the shooting?
15.
15. Yeah, I mean, don't you think he should?
Someone's got to be held liable.
I mean,
Someone's fee have to be put
don't
to
you
the
think
fire.
it should be the father should be held responsible?
As a father, I have guns in my home, and I take extra precaution not only to make my kids understand the power of a weapon, what it can do, the anatomy of a firearm, what if you ever come across one, because even if you watching, you have kids, you never know whether it's your house or maybe they go to a friend's house and they are playing in a room or they go downstairs and go to the bathroom and they find a gun. The last thing you want your child to do is to panic, pick up the gun, not knowing what the hell they're doing. So at a very young age, I teach my kids, hey, this is what a gun is. This is the trigger. If you pull this, this happens. And I make sure to take extra precautions to keep my guns stored safely. So if you're not doing that as a parent and you have minors in the home, I absolutely believe it should fall on your shoulders. We're parents. We're liable.
But
Every decision we make for our kids.
Would you give your kid a gun for them to own
At 14? Absolutely not.
But
At
you don't
15?
think that a 15-year-old should know better? Like, I understand that the parents at
But who
fault,
is that
for-
on, though? Who is that on?
I know it's the parent. Because, I mean, like, as a kid, I was taught, like, gun safety because there was always guns in the house.
How
but,
old
like,
were you when you were taught that?
5.
So at a super young age.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm assuming the parents
It's still-
should,
it's
like,
still
do the
the-
same thing. The parents are 100% at fault, but the kids should know better.
So
You're
should
taught that in school to do, like, hard lockdowns and all that stuff for this occasion. Shouldn't the kid know better?
you know?
I mean,
So
the kid's gonna be held responsible.
well, they're both going to be held
Yeah.
responsible.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
father,
so-
but
yeah.
who is more culpable? Is it the father or is it
it's
the person
that
that did
person to
shooting?
pull the trigger? That's it. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if I go out and commit a crime, if someone aided and abetted me, I still committed the crime. I'm going to be held to the fullest extent of the law, and then anyone that aided and abetted are also going to be prosecuted in that frame, right? He's not going to get the father's not going to get first-degree murder charges or a terrorism charge, and we saw that with the charges that were filed. I mean, I'm sure if you take all of these, I'm sure he'll be found guilty for some of them. I don't know if he'll be found guilty of all of them, but you stack those together, he's going to serve, I would assume, a lengthy prison time. I know that you're usually going to do, what is it, a minimum of 2 years for manslaughter?
Well,
generally for most states, and so
some states the death penalty is on the table.
no, that's
No, in
capital
some
murder.
states there are.
Capital murder. There's no state that has manslaughter as a
Well, for
capital-
manslaughter, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what the shooter did first.
Oh, the shooter, yeah.
Yeah.
The father, no.
Yeah,
There's zero chance.
Yeah.
Like, that's not even on the table.
Ask
But
you, do you agree with him that in this case of a 15-year-old and the father who gifted him the gun, that the child, the person who did the shooting, should be held more liable than the person who maybe provided the means to do that?
I mean, the child should 100% be charged, in trouble, whatever.
I think we can all agree that both of them, correct?
yeah, but I
Yeah.
don't even
It's
know why
who-
unless the kid is a toddler, like if you're 15 years old,
You're almost an adult.
yeah, you're
like,
15 years old, you know what? You kill somebody, that you're held accountable. Like, straight up, fullest extent of the law. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't even think anybody's questioning should the kid be held responsible. Like, what are you talking about? Like, letting them free? Like,
No, absolutely
there you go. Like, like death penalty, whatever it is, life in prison, capital punishment, whatever you need. Like, it's very clean cut and simple. I think that is an easy argument, right? Hey, dude, like, throw his ass up, lock him up. Lengthy trial. Put all the family members up there. Let them speak their piece. Let them cry on stand. Let the emotions out. At least have some kind of emotional recourse for this dude. Let the family members grieve and explain how of a how detrimental it is to their lives and what they took away from them. Maybe he feels bad. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's evil at heart. I don't know, but.
So my next question is, when things like this happen, naturally, the discourse is, well, Why was this allowed to happen? And what should change? Some people throw out, hey, we should just completely ban assault rifles. Some people put out, we should do mental health screenings. We should raise the limit. We should. So what is your solution? Because we can all agree here that this is an issue that should not be happening. Is it putting metal detectors in the schools? Is it putting extra security? What is your remedy to things like this continuing to happen in here in the United
I
States?
don't think that we should be treating schools like jails and do metal detectors, but I do think that there should be more mental tests when you're buying a gun and like not as easy to buy a gun. I understand there's a background check and all that stuff, but I don't think it is for you can buy a gun anywhere.
I just bought a rifle and I did my background check, and in 30 minutes they came in and sent me a text and said, "Hey, come in and pick up your gun."
I don't think banning assault rifles is going to do anything to someone who has the intent to take life with a firearm. I think if you have an AR-15 or you have 9mm, you're going to still point shoot. I mean, would there be less loss of life? Perhaps, but I mean, at the same time, maybe you can go through more ammunition and a firearm. At the end of the day, it doesn't solve the problem.
I feel like it's too late to ban guns.
Yeah.
Someone's going to find one somewhere.
Yeah, it's not. The argument should be, and then obviously I'm not for that, but the argument should be if you're trying to ban guns, then blanket it, I guess, or whatever it is, age restriction, go across the board. I think singling out a particular style of weapon isn't going to do anything for you. It's no different to say, hey, if the dude came in with a shotgun and did what he did, I think the discussion of banning shotguns is not going to solve the issue. If he did it with a handgun and saying, hey, you know what, he did this with a 45 caliber pistol, the caliber or bullet is highly destructive, and so we need to ban 45. Like, at the end of the day, like, that doesn't lead us anywhere, right? And especially not in a close environment like we had. Had it been some kind of I remember growing up, they had the DC sniper, and that was someone that had a high caliber rifle. This was on the East Coast, and it was a John or the Malvo. I can't remember his first name, but there was a string of shootings. That was a high caliber rifle. That there, you can make an argument, but trying to ban assault rifles, I think, doesn't do anything for the crime or the intent, right?
Ashley, you made a point about doing, better background checks, but isn't this the situation that proves to us that necessarily might not be the answer? You have someone, let's just say the person who shot was, let's just say they were of legal age to buy a gun.
Mm.
But he didn't buy a gun and do the shooting. His father did. And for all we know, the father could have had a completely clean record. So is it a problem of guns, or is it a problem of something else like mental health?
Well, I think in this situation specifically, it's poor parenting. But perhaps mental health.
I think the crisis here is a mental health crisis. I think if someone is capable of walking into a high school and opening fire in a classroom of students, if they wanted to hurt them, whether it was a gun, whether it was a homemade pipe bomb, whether it was driving a car, whether it was, who knows, a homemade flamethrower, I don't know. But at the end of the day, if you have it in you to do that, you're going to find a way to do it. And so for me, it's a mental health problem. I'd much rather see mental health screenings, a more deeper look into psychology. I also think that because it is a Second Amendment right here in the United States, that gun safety should be taught in schools. We can't just assume that no one's ever going to either buy a gun or come across a gun. We should assume that at some point, someone will come across a weapon, whether it's they decide to buy one, whether it's an in-law, their parents, their sister, their friends, whoever the case may be. People just need to be aware, and they need to understand the anatomy of a gun, how a gun works. And I think the mental health crisis in this country is really playing a deep role. We should be looking at that. We shouldn't be looking into what was used, but why? Why did it happen?
So also, I think something that we've left out here in this discussion is the fact that the the cops or they had to get investigated by the FBI. He had got questioned a year ago. And so I'm not sure which branch of I don't know if it was the local police or the FBI, but a year ago, the suspect here had made allegations of a school shooting, and they came in and investigated. They interviewed not only the kid, but also his father. They interviewed both of them just a year ago in 2023, but then they found no probable cause. And yet, lo and behold, a year later, don't you think that they should have had some kind of, watch on them, so overlooked the whole situation? I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think they dropped the ball? Do you think, hey, you know what? They looked into it. They did what they could. I mean, at the same time, you got to know, hey, look, there's guns in the house. The son is being accused of threatening to shoot at the school, and yet nothing came about it.
This is almost a full year prior to the event happening.
Yeah.
Well, it was over a full year prior.
Yeah. I mean,
you know when they put people on the terror sky list, right? When you're flying. And then when you go to security on your boarding pass, they have the 4 S's on top, just like they did with Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
What does that do? Does that mean you can't fly? No. It just means that when you go through TSA, there's extra screenings, there's extra pat downs, and the the air marshal that is on the flight knows, hey, on this flight there is someone that is on the domestic terror watch list, so you need to keep an eye on them. Same idea. If you find someone, or if you find what they found back on this guy back in 2023. There should have been some sort of oversight, right? The Patriot Act was passed in 2001 after the 9/11 attacks. And it was to categorize people and people that are higher risk and be able to have resources available to either, I don't know, look at their messaging or track their phone calls or whatever they need to do to make sure that that person they've identified as an elevated threat does not continue forward if they have something planned. I think that could have been in place, and I believe this is something that potentially could have been stopped. Any final thoughts on this before we move forward?
No.
No? Okay. Let's talk about something that has been under attack, seems like, over the last 3 to 5 years, and that is free speech. I want you to watch this video of Kamala Harris. Okay.
Y'all think this is okay?
We will double the Civil Rights Division and direct law enforcement to counter this extremism. We will hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms, because they have a responsibility to help fight against this threat to our democracy. And if you profit off of hate, if you act as a megaphone for misinformation or cyber warfare, if you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.
I can't be the only one who thinks this is not okay. It's the First Amendment. And no politician, I don't care who you're voting for, whether it's Kamala, Trump, or that one weird guy who was blabbling about on stage. We don't even know where he is now. We don't even know if he's still the president. I don't care who you support. But no one should be okay with a politician saying they're going to restrict your First Amendment right on.
You agree?
Here's the thing. She's out here saying that, you can't have any hate speech, right? And I think that that's just a broad term for anything that, hey, don't say anything negative about anything that we don't agree with, right? And so should you police threats, right? If I say, hey, I'm going to physically harm this person, sure, that should be something that's policed, right? You can't, in the same way that whatever I decide to say in public, if I can get legally held, if I can get in trouble for what I say in public, then that should be the same for social media. But to tailor an algorithm to not promote X, Y, Z, ask the founders to go in and tweak what has been said just simply because it doesn't align with your current policies, I think is asking for so much trouble, right? So outside of a few exceptions, you have child pornography and then death threats and harming. Outside of that, let people speak their mind. You know what? We as a civilization aren't going to agree on majority of issues, right? whether it's, how to raise a kid, education, funding, taxes, government, politics, nationalities, religions. We're just not going to ever see eye to eye. And one side is just going to get pissed off because the other people don't understand where they're coming from, or vice versa. And so this is always going to happen. So you try to police it. I mean, well, you're just going to pick a side, right? The U.S. is going to say, hey, look, do not talk negatively about Israel. You're good to talk about negatively about Palestine, though, or vice versa, right? And so, I mean, it's very, very dangerous road that we're going into. And Kamala Harris, and I know this video came from years ago, so I don't know if she still holds that stance. But I mean, people do change, but I mean, how far do they change, right?
The biggest issue and takeaway for me was holding the platforms responsible for what the users are saying. We saw what happened with the founder of Telegram, Pavel Durov. He got off an airplane in France and got arrested.
Yeah.
And so, Ashley, what are your thoughts?
I couldn't lie. I couldn't fully understand what she was whining about, but
She's pretty much saying that any hate speech that is on any social media, if it is allowed to be on the social media, then that platform, let's just say Twitter or X, would be held responsible and would be fined. And who knows, maybe the founder or the CEO could be thrown in jail.
why should someone else be responsible for what I'm saying, though?
So who should then?
But that's her whole point. She's saying, hey, look, you need to police this. Otherwise, we're going to hold you accountable. And so that's the whole premise of her speech.
Do you
That's
think
very stupid?
Do you think there should be any moderation of what's being said and posted on social media?
I do agree with Robin about like the terrible things, but I feel like you should be able to say what you want to say, besides like threats and other things that are terrible to say.
Well, that's the and you get into the slippery slope of a broad term like hate speech, right? And like Rob mentioned, it could be hate speech could be deemed something that the state does not agree with. It could be, I mean, we've seen examples of this time and time again. And if you try to moderate it, like we saw what happened with Twitter before Elon Musk bought it, what we're continuing to see on Facebook, on Instagram, is you run into this scenario where if you get enough people to bitch and complain, certain voices are going to be suppressed. And so is your First Amendment right, the right to free speech, is that worth losing versus seeing some things on a timeline you might not agree with, or some things that are just absolutely blasphemous that you're like, what is this guy or gal? What are they saying? This is absurd. This is whether it hurts your feelings or gets you up in arms. Is that a battle you're willing to fight?
No, but I will say that I do think it's up to these platforms to try to balance out their algorithm, because this thing is a closed feedback loop sometimes. And if you start watching, say, anti-Israel information, then the algorithm is going to find you every piece of anti-Israel news that it can give you until you get tired of it. Or if you keep consuming it and enjoying it, it's going to give you more. And so I don't really know what the answer is, but I do agree that the algorithm is tailored to feed on people's fears and their emotions. And I know that can cause a runaway effect. Now, I don't think that censoring is the correct way of going about it. I don't think that, shadow banning. I don't think that they have a responsibility on determining on what gets posted. But I do think they have a responsibility to not try to indoctrinate the viewer, right? And so if you take 1,000 people and you keep showing them repeatedly some kind of negative content on a certain race, for example, I think that would lead more people to kind of view with that aggressive personality, right?
I think a better solution, and you can do something like this on X now, is you can go in the settings and block certain keywords, and it won't show up on your timeline.
But people aren't going to do that.
I'm just saying, if it's a personal thing and you don't want to hear about how bad Israel is or how good Palestine is, or insert any situation here. You can go in there and block those, and they just won't show up on your timeline.
Yeah. So do you think that now? Okay. So I think we're kind of in agreement that social media shouldn't police what is being said. I'm not
Absolutely
a big fan. I like what X is doing with the community the community notes, where the community can come together and say, hey, this one's not factually correct, or that this video is not what it seems to be, whatever that may be. I like that style, right? I think that fits perfectly. Instead of having it fall on one person or a group of individuals, quote unquote fact checkers, who can be biased themselves, let the community do it. But it does concern me what the algorithms do right now. And I think that if you just give AI, and AI is growing, and that's essentially what an algorithm is, right? It's one form of AI. It's not the AI that we use for generative, text to speech. But don't you find it concerning that as technology evolves, as computers become smarter, as AI becomes more and more aware of our emotions, that it's going to try to feed you certain information to keep you hooked, especially if it's aggressive or malintent?
Well, think about where the money comes in, Robin. Marketing, advertising.
No, what I'm asking is, should these platforms try to adjust the algorithm, the computer, so that way they're not attacking the viewers with this?
But then you go back. But then you go back to your earlier point of having one centralized point of control of who decides what's true, what's not true, what you see.
So take the hands off the steering wheel, let AI
take the hands off the steering wheel. The problem is
I don't trust AI. That's the problem.
But the problem, no. The problem is I don't trust the people that are making the.
Yeah, but who do you trust more? Do you trust an algorithm that the sole purpose of it, no matter what ammunition or fuel it uses, its sole purpose to make you stay on the platform longer, even if they're showing you things that is changing your perception?
So what's your solution?
I don't think there is I think it's a touchy subject, but I do think that there should be some effort to remove 100% no guardrails on an AI to try to alienate me to watch the platform, right? Like, I mean, think about it. Like, hey, this computer program, like, do whatever it takes possible. Use every computer chip that you have at your disposal to make me stay on your platform. I don't know. It kind of scares me, man.
Ashley?
Y'all are so off topic. I don't know. Now I'm confused. My little brain couldn't process what y'all were talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about algorithms and what you see on your social media profile. It's interesting to see, if Kamala gets in, what are we going to see? If Trump gets in, we kind of have an idea of what we're going to see because we've saw it in the first term. But I'll tell you what, my stance is free speech is a God-given right in this country. If you're a United States citizen, it is your First Amendment right for free speech. Now, if you start going off and saying things that are not popular and people don't like, well, the market will decide. The market will decide. Are there little pockets of people that enjoy racist commentary or engage in it? Yes. But as a majority of people like that, I would say no.
I just feel like with social media, if you don't like something, just like scroll away from it. I don't know. I think this is all like sensitivity wise.
Yeah. I think there's a push to dumb the public down and kind of get them to just scroll on these apps like TikTok and X and Twitter and Instagram and just be captivated and influenced by someone else's opinion or someone else's reporting. I think we got to go back to we have a brain. We can critically think about what's right, what's wrong, what's moral, what's not moral, what's ethical, what's unethical. And so trying to push that blame onto a platform, I do not think is the answer. I want to move on to the next headline here, which is Donald Trump's sentencing was supposed to come prior to the election. The judge has delayed it till after the election, after November. Does this help or hurt Donald Trump's chances, Robin?
I mean, I just think that if you had this sentencing prior to the election and he got sentenced, or it's going to influence the election, right?
But would it have influenced for Donald Trump in a negative or a positive?
It just depends. Like, I don't know. I just feel like, hey, look, if you're trying to have a fair election, the election is in 80 days, right? If a judge were to rule on this now, it's going to affect the election. Bar none, 100% chance that's happening. And so, we're not talking about, someone going up for the board of the company or some, this is the president of the United States. This is the highest position for our country. And so we're 80 days away. Like, let's not have some giant headline. Like, there's no point. Just delay it. Wait till after the election. And then at that point, then have your ruling.
You think this was the Democrats pushing for this?
No, by no means. Zero chance. The Democrats wanted him to be in court case.
You saw what happened when he got convicted, when he got indicted. His popularity rose. And so
there's no way. These Democrats are foaming at the mouth for anything and everything. They keep throwing court case at him after court case. They're trying to damage
his
reputation.
popularity rises. So that's
but you think they're so your theory is that they're going to have hands-off approach. We don't want him to go into office. Just don't mention his name. No, they are arrogant and they want to the people that keep going after him and keep indicting him for different things. I mean, you had the hush money, you had his taxes, you had the files that he was keeping at his home after the presidency, the ones that were, the secret files and the top secret ones that
classified files.
Yeah, classified. And so they're just throwing anything and everything. They blamed all of the January 8th on him. And, could he have been held accountable? That's a different story, sure. But, at the same time, it's never ending with the Democrats. So to think that the Democrats persuaded the judge to not sentence him right now, I think is absolutely absurd. They 100% would have liked to have him get sentenced. So that way Kamala Harris could get on stage and be like, he is a convicted felon. He's supposed to be doing 2 years in prison. Why would you know what I mean? And I know he's not going to get prison time, but still, you know what I mean? That's the whole, my whole premise is there's zero chance the Democrats tried to brush this under the rug. Like, zero chance.
Do you agree?
I'm in the middle, I think. I don't know. I do see his point, but I don't think like Democrats would be able to persuade a judge.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't know the.
Yeah, I don't think the judge got persuaded by anybody. I think the judge is just looking at it from an ethical position and saying, hey, you know what? If I do the sentencing now. They delay all the time. It's not like this is some unheard of thing. Like, what it is. Like, if I get a speeding ticket, I can go to the courthouse and be like, hey, can I get a delay? I can do it 5 times in a row and just delay. It is part of the judicial system. So to simply say, hey, you know what? Let's just wait for after. Like, he doesn't need to be influenced by anybody. He can just say, like, you know what? We probably don't need this headline right now prior to an election, honestly. And so I think that's what happened. I don't think there's some giant grand conspiracy here. It's pretty simple.
But why does it need to be a headline? Like, why is it on the news?
I mean, you have a Republican Party candidate, former president,
and someone that's about to go in office that is about to get sentenced to perhaps time in prison.
I don't know what this case is, if I'm being honest.
They're charging him for paying hush money to the porn star that he slept with.
Oh.
Yeah, interesting. How do you see the election playing out?
Like, who's going to win?
I
mean, I don't know. I think Trump has a commanding lead. I mean, he's ahead in the polls, but then there's other polls that show Kamala. But I think that we have a very similar effect to what we saw like when he was running against Hillary Clinton, where certain media or majority of media and broadcast was predicting that Hillary is going to win by a landslide. It has a very similar feel this time around. even when Biden and Trump were going head to head last election, you still had a feel that we were going to see Biden win, right? It kind of was. You knew it was going to be a really close race, right? And I had a feeling Biden was going to win. I think that people were getting fed up with Trump, the COVID. How you remember all the press conferences he had? That was, that was kind of like the top thing was, hey, Trump said put bleach in your arm, right? And so I saw a change coming, but this time around it has a big feeling, or a lot of similarities to when Hillary and Trump were going against each other. Media was portraying this to be a landslide by Hillary. I think media is trying to say that this is going to be a close race, but I think Kamala's so far behind, bro. I think that there's little hope for her to win, in my opinion.
I have seen a lot of Democrats switching over to Trump.
Yeah.
So I feel like it should be Trump winning, but we'll see.
Well, the most important faction is the independents, right?
Yeah.
And you have the leader of the independent party, which was RFK Jr., now saying, hey, vote for Donald Trump. How do you see this election playing out?
I don't know. I don't know if Trump will win by a lot, but I feel like it might be like a small percentage type thing.
You think he's going to win?
I'm hoping so.
Hoping so. Me too. Anything else?
No, that's it, bro.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning into our first episode. Come back next Friday for episode 2 of Bold Broadcasting. We'll see you next time.